In the quiet space between galaxies, where silence hums louder than any sound, a faint blue shimmer moves across the dark. Astronomers call it a traveler, three-eye atlas, an interstellar visitor unlike anything seen before, but those who listen differently sense that it carries a memory older than the stars themselves. It is not just light, it is a whisper from the cosmos, a signal meant to awaken what the Earth has long kept hidden beneath centuries of noise. The watchers who track it speak in data, in numbers and frequencies, yet even they admit that something about this object feels alive, as if it drifts not by gravity but by intention. It pulses in color, blue to red and back again, like a breathing thing suspended in the infinite. Each pulse matches the rhythm of the planet below, a subtle vibration that echoes through oceans, forests, and the human heart. Some call it coincidence, others call it communication. Across the mesas of the high desert, the wind carries stories that were old before the first telescope was lifted to the sky. The people who have listened to that wind for generations say that light remembers. They speak of cycles, worlds that rise and fall and rise again. They say that when the world forgets its song, the sky sends a reminder. This light, they whisper, might be that reminder. A messenger, not of doom but of balance. It does not come to destroy. It comes to reflect, to show humanity what it has become and what it might still remember to be. The elders say the earth does not end. She renews herself again and again, through fire, through water, through the trembling of her own bones. What we call catastrophe, she calls cleansing. What we fear as an ending, she knows as rebirth. Those who have studied the stars long enough understand that the cosmos works in patterns. Every cycle carries within it the seed of the next. The ancients saw this and called it harmony. The scientists see it and call it resonance. Between those two languages lies the truth. The blue wanderer that now drifts toward our sun is more than a stone or a comet. It moves as if it remembers the path it took long before we were here to see it. Instruments detect a strange vibration in its tail, a frequency near 8 Hz, the same resonance that shivers faintly around the earth like a heartbeat. No machine built by human hands could have planned such precision. And yet there it is, matching the rhythm of the world as if the planet and the star traveler are sharing a secret. The desert keeps its own kind of silence, one that listens rather than hides. There, under endless sky, the elders speak of the times before the machines, when people could feel the breath of the planet beneath their feet and hear the voices of the wind. They remember the teachings that spoke of 4 worlds before this one, each ending not from punishment but imbalance. One burned, one froze, one drowned, and one forgot. The survivors carried memory across those thresholds and built again, each world a lesson carved into the rhythm of creation. Now they say, we live in the 4th world, the one born of both memory and amnesia. We can reach beyond the atmosphere, but we have forgotten how to touch the soil with reverence. The blue light that now stirs the heavens might be the call to remember. In laboratories, scientists measure its spectrum and debate its origin. Some say it is breaking apart, others that it is simply reflecting sunlight in a strange way. But even in those sterile rooms filled with screens and data, an unspoken unease lingers. Its path is too clean, its motion too deliberate. It does not scatter like other comets. It glides, turning slowly as though aware. And when its glow shifts from red to blue, sensors on Earth pick up faint electromagnetic murmurs in synchrony with the planet's own pulse. To those who study energy fields, it seems almost as if the visitor is tuning itself to our world. To those who still remember the old stories, it is not tuning at all. It is awakening. There is a teaching that says the Earth and the stars speak in the same language, though we have forgotten how to hear it. That language is vibration, the hum beneath thought, the resonance that binds matter to meaning. The blue traveler, if that is what it truly is, may not be here to show us a miracle. It may be here to remind us that we are one. When its light touches the magnetic shell of our planet, the atmosphere shivers with auroras brighter than memory. In those waves of color, something stirs in human hearts, a sense that we have seen this before, in dreams, in myths, in echoes of a time when humanity still walked in harmony with creation. The elders say prophecy is not about seeing the future. It is about remembering the rhythm of life. What they called the blue star is not a harbinger of death, but of renewal. It appears when the balance between sky and earth wavers, when humanity must choose again between fear and faith. It is the mirror held up to the collective soul. What we see in it depends on what we carry within. Some will see an omen, others will see a promise. But the star itself remains only what it has always been, a reflection of the living universe. Now, as the light grows brighter each night, a strange calm settles over those who pay attention. Not dread, but recognition. The feeling that something vast and ancient is unfolding exactly as it must. The object moves closer, its blue shimmer deepening like the hue of twilight. It does not announce itself with thunder or flame. It simply arrives, patient and aware, as if waiting for us to remember what we once knew. The sky, for those who listen, has begun to hum again. It is a sound that does not come from above but from within, a vibration rising from the heart of the world itself. And perhaps this is what the elders meant when they said the fifth world would not descend from the heavens, but rise from within. Every heartbeat, every breath, every act of remembrance is a doorway. The new world does not wait beyond the stars. It waits behind the eyes of those willing to see. As the blue traveler continues its silent journey, we stand beneath it at the edge of forgetting and awakening, caught between data and destiny, between the measurable and the meaningful. The choice, as always, belongs to us. They called it Three-Eye Atlas. The name came easily to those who discovered it, a mixture of awe and unease wrapped in scientific restraint. To the astronomers who tracked its path, it was an anomaly, a body from beyond the solar wind, moving with the stillness of intent. To others who watched without instruments, it was something else entirely, a mirror returning through the dark to ask an ancient question. No one could explain why its orbit bent in ways no comet should, or why its glow pulsed in intervals that matched the faint electrical rhythm of the planet itself. It appeared to breathe, to shift between blue and red as though inhaling and exhaling cosmic air. It was both a visitor and a reflection, and its arrival began to awaken a memory buried beneath centuries of noise. In mountain observatories, the data was precise yet unsatisfying. The readings refused to behave. Charts flickered with repeating frequencies, small ripples of energy that synchronized with the atmosphere's own pulse. The scientists called it interference. The mystics called it resonance. But in quiet rooms, away from the cameras, even the skeptics began to whisper that Three-Eye Atlas was not following the rules. Its fragments drifted in geometric alignment, as though guided by invisible hands. No natural debris should move like that, yet there it was, forming triangles, circles, spirals that echoed patterns carved into rock and memory across the ages. Far from the observatories, on desert mesas where the night sky feels close enough to touch, the elders gathered to listen. They said this was the light they had spoken of in songs older than language, the sign that the earth was ready to remember her rhythm. They called it the Blue Messenger, a being of reflection rather than destruction. When the sky grows restless, they said, the earth listens, and when the earth forgets, the sky answers. Three-Eye Atlas had not come to end the world. It had come to remind it how to begin again. Around the world, people began to feel a strange stillness, as if time itself paused to breathe with the stars. Some dismissed it as imagination, a trick of suggestion spreading through the collective mind. But for others, the feeling was unmistakable, a gentle vibration in the chest, a low hum beneath thought, a sense that something vast was aligning. The frequencies emitted by the traveler matched not only the Earth's electromagnetic heartbeat, but also the natural rhythms found in human brainwaves during deep meditation. The boundary between inner and outer blurred. Some felt an awakening, others confusion. But all who noticed sensed that this was no coincidence. In the deep quiet of space, Three-Eye Atlas glowed brighter, its blue tail lengthening as it curved around the sun. Telescopes caught flashes along its surface, brief glints that looked like mirrors turning toward the light. No one could say what reflected there, ice, metal, or something not yet named. The images seemed to pulse, almost as if the object was aware of being watched. A few scientists joked that the universe was finally waving back. But those who studied the old prophecies spoke with less humor. They said the messenger does not wave, it reveals. As the weeks passed, storms on Earth intensified. The northern skies burned with auroras far beyond their usual borders. glowing in hues that cameras struggled to capture. The light was different, deeper, almost intelligent, forming shapes that flickered like symbols before fading. In one image taken over the Arctic, the pattern resembled an open eye. When compared to the spectral map of Three-Eye Atlas, the match was uncanny. The same geometry repeated in both. To some, it was evidence of cosmic connection. To others, it was proof of human projection. Yet the coincidence felt too precise to ignore. Among those who still hold the teachings of balance, there was no fear. They had long said that when the blue messenger arrives, the world would not end but transform. Fire would cleanse, wind would carve, and water would renew. Each element would rise not in anger but in harmony, reminding life of its interdependence. The elders taught that what humanity calls disaster is often the planet's way of recalibrating. And so when the fires burned brighter and the tides surged higher, they did not curse the sky. They prayed for remembrance. Three-Eye Atlas moved steadily closer, tracing its curve through space like a brushstroke of light. Its energy fields began to interact with solar winds, creating waves that resonated across magnetospheres. Instruments recorded fluctuations that mirrored the rhythm of human heartbeat. The scientists spoke of coincidence again, but deep within the data, patterns whispered. Every color shift, every flicker, every oscillation echoed the same universal tempo, as though the traveler and the earth were singing to each other in forgotten harmony. In ancient carvings, there are symbols of two dancers, one red, one blue, locked in eternal motion, each completing the other's step. The elders said they represent the dual forces of awakening and revelation, light and reflection, heartbeat and breath. As Three-Eye Atlas shimmered between red and blue, the story seemed to come alive once more. The red light revealed what had been hidden. The blue light awakened what had been asleep. Together they spoke of balance restored, of a world reminded of its own sacred song. By the time the object crossed the orbit of Mars, even the most grounded among the observers admitted that something unprecedented was happening. Its luminosity defied models. It should have dimmed as it lost ice to solar radiation, but instead, it brightened. It was as if the closer it came to the sun, the more alive it became. In its glow, scientists found not the cold reflection of rock, but a resonance they could not name. And beyond the data, a quiet realization began to spread. Perhaps the cosmos was not a void filled with accidents, but a living system remembering itself through light. The elders had said that when the blue star dances, humanity will be tested, not by the heavens, but by its own heart. The measure of survival would not be power, but harmony. Three-Eye Atlas was not a threat. It was an invitation. To those who still listened to the hum beneath all things, its message was clear. The world will not end in darkness. It will end in remembering. As Three-Eye Atlas moved nearer to the inner planets, its light deepened to a shade that seemed alive, neither blue nor red, but a blend that felt like the moment before dawn when the world holds its breath. Observatories filled with data, yet none of it fit the equations. Its core did not behave like rock or ice. It seemed to modulate, to expand and contract as though responding to unseen music. Each pulse coincided with subtle variations in the planet's electromagnetic field, a rhythm that instruments could not fully explain. The scientists began to argue over the readings, some calling them errors, others calling them evidence of a living pattern that connected Earth to the moving light. Those who still listened to the older teachings said that this was not new. It had all been spoken long ago, that a time would come when the heavens and the earth would remember each other. They said that when the song of creation was nearly forgotten, a voice would rise from the stars to remind the living of their purpose. It would not bring salvation or doom, only reflection. And in that reflection, each soul would see what it had become. The ones who live in balance would feel peace as the vibration increased, while those who live in dissonance would feel the world tremble around them. The choice was never punishment, it was resonance. In cities full of lights and motion, some began to dream of waves of color spreading across the sky. The same dreams repeated in different languages, of a luminous figure with three eyes opening above the horizon. Psychologists wrote papers about collective suggestion, but none could explain how people across oceans described the same sound accompanying it, a low hum that seemed to rise from the ground itself. Radio operators picked up faint tones, pulsing just beneath audible range. They traced them to no machine, no satellite, no human source. The frequency was the same one the astronomers recorded in the tail of 3I Atlas. As the traveler reached its closest approach to the sun, something extraordinary happened. Instead of burning apart as expected, it held its form, gliding through the heat as if made of memory rather than matter. The solar winds parted around it in perfect symmetry, creating a halo that shimmered like a veil. For several nights, the sky turned an unfamiliar shade of blue even at midnight, soft but luminous, as if the planet itself was glowing from within. It was during these nights that many began to speak of stillness, a sensation that time had slowed, that breath had become soundless. Animals moved differently, calmer, alert but unafraid. Birds gathered where the auroras touched the horizon and circled in patterns too precise to be random. In sacred gatherings, elders said the purification had begun, not as destruction but as alignment. They spoke of how the earth cleanses herself when her children forget her language. Fire, wind, and water become her voice. She shakes not in anger but in rhythm. The storms and quakes and floods are not her punishment but her remembrance. And as she remembers, so do we. The same light that ignites the stars burns quietly in every living cell. The hum of the planet and the hum of the heart are one song. 3I Atlas did not come to announce this truth. It came because this truth already was. In laboratories, some researchers began to notice an unexplainable synchronization of global data streams. Magnetic readings, atmospheric charges, even heart rate studies from human populations, all showed subtle coherence during the hours when the traveler's reflection reached its brightest. It was as if everything on the planet was breathing in time. The data was real, though its meaning escaped measurement. A few dared to suggest that consciousness itself might be part of the field being tuned. That idea was dismissed publicly, but privately it grew harder to deny. The elders smiled at such discoveries. They said science was only now hearing what the earth had been whispering forever. The sky and the soil are not separate. One sings, the other answers. When humanity forgets to listen, the stars send a rhythm strong enough to be felt again. The coming of the blue messenger, they said, marks not the end but the remembering. The purification is not fire consuming the world. It is light revealing what no longer serves life. Around this time, strange phenomena were reported across the world. In deserts, spheres of faint light rolled silently across the sand. In forests, trees glowed faintly at night, their leaves shimmering like glass underwater. Oceans began to emit unusual bioluminescence, even in regions where such life was rare. The explanations ranged from chemical reactions to atmospheric interference, yet the timing followed the same pattern as the pulses of 3I Atlas. The Earth was not only responding, she was resonating. In the midst of all this, many began to feel unease mixed with awe. They looked up and saw a light that seemed to look back. It was not fear that grew, but an understanding that something vast and intelligent surrounded them. The elders said that intelligence was not foreign. It was our own reflection magnified through the sky. When the mirror appears, the only question that remains is whether we recognize ourselves. The purification continued, not as a single event, but as a sequence of awakenings. Old systems began to tremble. Institutions built on division and greed faltered. People everywhere began to sense that truth was rising like fire through dry wood. The illusions of control weakened as nature moved with new rhythm. Storms came, but after each, the air felt clearer, the stars brighter. It was as if the Earth was exhaling centuries of forgetting. 3I Atlas moved beyond the orbit of Venus, heading inward toward the blue planet that had been waiting unknowingly for this conversation. The hum in the air grew stronger. Some felt restless, others peaceful, but everyone felt something. Even those who never watched the sky began to notice the shifts, in the tides, in their sleep, in their thoughts. The traveler was not speaking in words, but in resonance, a language older than sound. When it finally became visible to the naked eye, a faint sapphire shimmer appeared above the western horizon. It looked small, almost delicate, but carried a presence that felt immense. People stopped in streets, fields, and forests to watch. For a moment, the world grew silent. Machines paused, wind calmed, and the planet seemed to listen. Somewhere deep within, a collective realization began to surface. The light in the sky and the light in the heart were the same. The light of Three-Eye Atlas lingered on the edge of twilight, not setting as the stars did, but remaining like a pulse at the corner of vision. It was not only seen but felt, as if the air itself vibrated with awareness. People began to speak softly in its presence, as though loud voices would break a spell. Nights became long and filled with wonder. Children who had never cared for the sky began to point upward, saying they could hear the light humming. In every place touched by its glow, a strange harmony settled. Not peace exactly, but the feeling that something vast and kind was listening. Astronomers published reports claiming the visitor was composed of unknown alloys mixed with frozen gases, yet the measurements contradicted each other. One day the readings showed high density, the next they showed transparency. Instruments captured bursts of energy that mirrored the planet's own electromagnetic field, as if the object was sampling the signature of Earth itself. Scientists called it reflection. The elders called it recognition. The difference between those words, they said, was only the distance between mind and heart. As it approached its nearest point to the planet, Three-Eye Atlas emitted waves invisible to the eye but unmistakable to instruments. The frequency corresponded to the resonance found in ancient chanting, a tone long used in ceremonies to align the body with the Earth's rhythm. It was as though the cosmos had begun to sing the same sound humanity once used to speak with it. Those sensitive to vibration felt it in their bones. It was subtle yet persistent, awakening memories not of this lifetime but of the essence beneath lifetimes. The light carried familiarity, a whisper older than history. Strange events began to unfold. Seeds that had lain dormant for decades sprouted in forgotten soil. Ice melted in patterns resembling spiral forms seen in sacred art. Some regions experienced brief nights where stars moved differently, tracing arcs that matched petroglyphs carved by hands, now dust. The alignment was too precise to be chance. It seemed the heavens were reenacting the stories carved into stone, reminding the living that myth was never fiction, only memory made symbolic. In the calm that followed these events, the voices of the past grew louder. The Hopi elders, the keepers of continuity, spoke once more. They said the blue messenger had opened the mirror of truth. Now humanity would see what it had created. The earth would show its reflection through weather, through movement, through breath. Those who honor the rhythm would walk through it unharmed. Those who resist it would feel dissonance until they remember their place within the song. The message was not threat but compassion. The universe teaches by resonance, not by punishment. When the comet's tail brushed the upper atmosphere, colors rippled across the sky unlike any ever recorded. Blue bled into gold, gold into silver, silver into violet, all shifting as though painted by unseen hands. The lights moved in waves that mirrored ocean tides, and for a few minutes, even the oceans themselves responded. Tides rose and fell in unison with the pulse from above. The connection between sea and sky became visible, a breathing pattern shared by planet and visitor alike. No one could deny that something intelligent was occurring. Cultural boundaries began to blur. Spiritual leaders, scientists, and artists spoke together for the first time in memory, searching for language to describe what none could own. One said it was the universe evolving through awareness. Another said it was consciousness recognizing itself in matter. A third said it was simply love remembering its form. All were correct, though each described only one side of the same mirror. The more humanity tried to define the event, the more it slipped beyond definition. The light could be studied, but the meaning could only be felt. Three-Eye Atlas continued to shimmer above the horizon, never still, always watching. Its three luminous cores rotated within each other, creating patterns of motion that seemed deliberate. Observers noticed that every time the rotation aligned in a particular way, the planet's magnetosphere quivered ever so slightly. The effect was real but gentle, like a touch on the skin of the world. Some feared it signaled interference. Others felt it was synchronization, the heartbeat of the cosmos aligning with the pulse of its child. Dreams intensified. People across continents reported visions of standing in vast fields of light where every sound turned into color. They saw cities built not of metal or stone, but of resonance, each structure humming a tone that contributed to the harmony of the whole. Some awoke in tears, not from fear, but from a longing too ancient to name. Psychologists again wrote their explanations, yet even they began to feel the pull. Something within consciousness itself was shifting. The mirror of the sky was now inside the mind. In small communities untouched by technology, elders guided ceremonies under the radiant night. They offered cornmeal to the wind, sang songs of gratitude, and spoke to the traveler as to a relative returned from afar. They said, "Welcome back, messenger of the long path. We have waited for your remembering." In their quiet voices there was no surprise, only fulfillment. They had always known this light would return when humanity drifted too far from balance. It was not prophecy but continuity, the cycle of forgetting and remembering that sustains creation. For those in the modern world, the light became both fascination and discomfort. Many tried to explain it through algorithms and sensors, yet none of the data erased the feeling that something sacred was occurring. Cities dimmed their lights to see it better. For a brief moment, across nations and languages, people looked up together. No advertisements, no noise, only the shared silence of wonder. The unity that no politics could achieve appeared effortlessly under the glow of Three-Eye Atlas. Then, one morning, without announcement, the traveler shifted color once more. It turned pale white for several minutes, radiating a calm so profound that even the wind seemed to pause. The hum stopped. The world held its breath. Then the vibration resumed, softer but deeper, as though the note had descended into the heart of the planet itself. Instruments recorded a faint echo spreading through the crust and oceans, not destructive but harmonious. It was as if the planet had answered. The sky sang, and the earth replied. Afterward, the light began to drift slowly away from the sun's pull, following a path that led it toward the outer darkness. But its departure did not feel like loss. It felt like completion. The visitor had not come to stay, it had come to awaken. The elders said it had delivered its message and now returned to its silence, carrying with it the reflections of all who had seen. The scientists watched it fade, puzzled yet humbled. They had expected data and found instead communion. Even as it receded, the effects remained. The Earth's magnetic field stabilized after years of fluctuation. Weather patterns softened. Animals began to migrate differently, forming routes that traced spiral paths across continents. Human dreams continued to echo the same landscapes of light. The hum persisted faintly beneath consciousness, a memory of connection imprinted on the collective heart. In time, people would call the event a mystery, a coincidence, a natural wonder. But those who had felt it knew better. They understood that the light in the sky was not separate from the light within. Three-Eye Atlas had not arrived from elsewhere. It had emerged from the mirror of time, a reminder that every world carries its own awakening within it. The messenger was gone, but the message had taken root. When Three-Eye Atlas finally slipped beyond sight, the world did not return to what it had been. The sky seemed quieter, yet alive, as though listening to itself. The hum that once came from above now echoed faintly within the hearts of those who had looked up and remembered. Nothing dramatic followed, no cataclysm, no salvation, only awareness, spreading slowly like dawn through fog. People spoke less and listened more. Some began planting again, not from fear of ending, but from gratitude for continuance. The scientists stored their data, knowing it explained little but revealed much. The elders folded the event into story, the latest chapter in an unbroken chain of remembering. And in that silence between understanding and wonder, humanity felt a truth too simple for words. The universe does not visit us, it is us. The light of Three-Eye Atlas had never been foreign. It was the reflection of an awakening world, a mirror turned toward itself. As the last glimmer faded into the outer dark, the night deepened and the planet exhaled. Somewhere within that breath, every living thing heard the same quiet message. Remember, you were never alone. Then the stars blinked once more, calm and eternal, as though nothing had happened, yet everything had changed.